It tells us in the Gospel of Luke that after the transfiguration, Jesus set his gaze like a flint on Jerusalem. He is focused because that is his destination. It is the main point of his life. It's everything is leading up. Everything before even the creation of the world, the Bible tells us, has been leading up to this point. And so he is focused on this goal and this destination. And so we see in Mark chapter 10, verse 32, and they were on the road going up to Jerusalem, and Jesus was walking ahead of them. Now, I had a Spanish teacher in high school, and she was known on field trips for walking ahead of them. And it was everything you could do to keep up with her because she knew the goal, she knew the plan and the destination, and she was power walking to that place, and the rest of us were just trying to keep up so that we didn't get lost. And I never was with her in another country, but there were sometimes people who were in another country with her on Spanish trips and didn't want to get lost, so they had to keep up with Senora because she was walking ahead. Jesus was walking ahead of them, and they were amazed. And those who followed were afraid. The disciples are around him. They're amazed because they know something is about to go down. And they're pretty sure they know Jesus is the Messiah Christ hero. And everybody else is afraid. They're just hanging around because they know something is about to go down. And one way or another, it's going to be a big thing. I kind of get this Western feel. They're going to the showdown. Blistering hot sun pouring down. Desert tumbleweeds going across the path to the Jordan River. Can't whistle. All right? Something big is about to happen. Jesus has already had some skirmishes with some religious leaders who came from Jerusalem to him. Now he's going into the heart of it. Everybody's wondering, is he the one who's been prophesied? Are the Romans going to get kicked out? Is he going to turn out to be a fake? What's going to happen? And Jesus has his gaze set on Jerusalem. And that's where we pick up our story with the blind man. Let's jump down to verse 46. Mark 10:46. And they came to Jericho. Jericho is about 15 miles away. They're getting close. And as he was leaving Jericho with his disciples and a great crowd, Bartimaeus, a blind beggar, the son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, Luke tells us that Bart is sitting there, and he can hear this huge crowd coming along. He's like, what's going on? What's happening? And people start telling him, it's this Jesus of Nazareth guy. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And many rebuked him, telling him, be quiet. But he cried out all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus, who had his gaze set on the cross, stopped and said, call him. And they called the blind man. And now instead of rebuking him, they say, hey, take heart, get up. He is calling you. And throwing off his cloak, he sprang up and came to Jesus. And Jesus said to him, what do you want me to do for you? And the blind man said to him, Rabbi, let me recover my sight. And Jesus said to him, go your way. Your faith has made you well. And immediately he recovered his sight and followed him on the way. You could change our country in one way, what would it be? Jesus is about to face the biggest championship game in his life. Think about some professional sports player or somebody at the top level here in the schools going into the biggest championship game. What would you expect them to do to get ready for that? I would expect some hoodies to go up and some ear pods to go in and to be focused, preparing my mind. I mean, if there is any time in all of history where Jesus is allowed to focus on himself, this has got to be the time, right? This has got to be a time because he's doing something that's going to change the whole world. Give him a few minutes, guys. Give him a few days because he's going in. He's facing the cross. He's facing extreme torture. Let him have some time to himself. And yet there's this crazy blind guy screaming at him, distracting him, interrupting him from the side of the road. And people are saying, hey, be quiet. Something bigger is going on here. And to be honest, I probably would say the same thing. I'm one of those guys, if I'm watching a movie or a TV show, and you're getting near the end, and somebody is about to save the world, and they stop and talk about their feelings with somebody, I'm like, it's frustrating. Don't you understand that the whole stake of the whole world is on stake? And is at stake? And why are you not getting in there to defuse the bomb or whatever else has to happen? Why are you out here talking? The time is ticking away. Get focused. Quit being interrupted by this other person. And yet what we see Jesus do is stop, pay attention, and care for this blind man. If you could change our country in one way, what would it be? Today I'm going to challenge you to be looking at the individuals around you, to let yourself be interrupted, because we're making followers of Jesus, and that's what Jesus did. When Jesus was about to change the whole world, he stopped and cared for the unnamed and the unknown. This guy's name was Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus is two Aramaic words put together. Bar means son of. Timaeus means Timaeus. It's the dad's name. So he is called son of Timaeus. In other places in the Bible, you see this being used as a common last name. Peter's original name was Simon Bar Jonah. Simon, son of Jonah. A guy shows up in Acts. Joseph Bar Sabbath. Joseph, son of Sabbath. But for this guy, all we get is Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus. I don't think this was this guy's real name, because it even clarifies for us. Hey, Bartimaeus means son of Timaeus. That helps us out because we don't speak Aramaic. This is how I imagine this guy's life. He's blind. He's growing up, and because he's blind, he's an outcast of the culture. They know he's not going to grow up to amount to anything. He'll just be one of those beggars alongside the road. And as people are seeing him run around, they're saying, who's that blind kid running around? And nobody even thinks it's worth it to learn his name. That's the son of Timaeus. Until eventually, all he is called is what would have been his last name. Hey, son of Timaeus. That's the son of Timaeus over there. Hey, stay away from that son of Timaeus guy. He's crazy. Nobody thought it was worth their time for the son Timaeus. But then Jesus saw him. I had a friend who adopted twins. As he adopted the twins at birth, he named them. And he was telling me the names he chose for them. There was meaning behind the names. The one was named after a relative who had been a spiritual role model for him. The other had some other language meaning behind their name. Because names are like the first blessing that a parent can give to a child, to tell them their identity, to tell them who they are. And this guy is unnamed and unknown. He had no blessing. No one saw value for him. No one had time for him. Are there unknown and unnamed people around you? In your school, in your job, in your neighborhood, as you're walking in Walmart? Are there unknown and unnamed people around you? My dad was a music teacher when I was growing up, so I hardly ever rode the school bus because I always rode with him. But as we got a little older, there were a few times where we would ride the school bus. And one time I was probably in, I think it was about 10th grade. I was an upperclassman. Normally they get to sit on the back of the bus because they're cool guys, right? But I never rode the school bus, so I didn't have a seat and I didn't really care anyway. And so I'm walking, I don't even know where to sit on this bus. I didn't even realize that they assigned seats. I know that now because I drove some school bus, but I didn't know where to sit, and nobody told me, and I'm a 10th grader. It's like my first time on the school bus. And I noticed there's this first or second grader sitting up near the front, all by himself. And he looked unnamed and unknown, like nobody really wanted to be around him. And I was already a counselor at Camp Joyelle, so I was being trained to look out for these types of people in our lives. And so I thought, I'm going to sit down to this guy. And as I did, the bus driver looked in the mirror, and I think he breathed a sigh of relief because it seemed like he could use some help, maybe, with this guy on the bus. And we struck up a conversation. Rode the bus a few more times and eventually got to the point where I was driving and I would go and pick up his mom and his sister and him for church on Wednesday nights. Are there unknown and unnamed people around you? Do you have eyes to see them? When Jesus was on his way to change the world, he stopped and cared for a guy who was acting out and socially inappropriate. Have you ever known any Barts who are socially inappropriate? Is that picture up there or is that one out? What's that? I had a picture up there. Can you guess which Bart I put up there for you to see? You all know. Because there are people in our lives who they're the ones who are acting out and socially inappropriate, right? Here we have a Bartimaeus, who is acting out. Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me! And he's being crazy. And people are like, shh, you're making a fool of yourself. You're embarrassing yourself. There's more important things going on. You need to be quiet. But Jesus stopped and cared for him because there's normally deeper problems when somebody is acting out and socially inappropriate. A couple weeks ago, we didn't know what was happening with our cat named Lola. We woke up and she was flipping out. She was crazy. I couldn't even go pick her up. She was hissing at me. And now, if you came over to my house, she probably might hiss at you a little bit because that's how she is. Well, you're going to find out in the story. But she was hissing at even me, and I couldn't pick her. And she was running around just acting like stuff was there. The poor thing, every time her tail came around her, it scared her. And she pounced on it and was like attacking her tail. And this went on for a couple of days. We had images of Old Yeller coming into our head. We're like, does this cat have rabies? What is going on? And we were praying. I think we mentioned to our life group, please pray for our cat. We don't know what's going on. She's losing her mind, and we're Googling it. And we're one thing, I forget the name, but it's if a cat gets too scared, they start acting this way and attacking their own tail. And it was pitiful to watch. And as we studied her behavior, and she eventually got better, as we studied her behavior, it happened every time she got to the one glass door in our house. And we realized squirrels go by there. And this scaredy cat had gotten so afraid of some squirrel or maybe even a chipmunk, it's hard to say, gotten so afraid it sent her into this emotional breakdown for half a week. But that happens all around us. We see the emotional breakdown. We don't always see those root problems. People who get in trouble a lot because negative attention is better than no attention at all. People who act foolish and stupid because people are going to make fun of me anyway, so I might as well give them a reason to. People who are withdrawn and have a don't mess with me attitude because they've experienced rejection and just want to put up those walls before somebody else does. The Bart in our story was making a complete fool of himself. But when you're at your wit's end, your cry for help is normally not socially acceptable or appropriate. I thought of this as a parent, especially as my kids were younger. You're in a restaurant. Your kid starts choking. How long do you wait till you start screaming and asking for somebody to come do the Heimlich, you know? Because you get to those times where you just need help so bad, you will do whatever you want, whatever is necessary to get it. There's Barts in our circles, Barts who are desperate, Barts who are crying for help and don't even realize that they are crying for help. Will you be like Jesus and stop and care for them? Or will you be like the crowd and say, hey, get in line, control yourself? You're an embarrassment. When Jesus was on his way to change the world, he stopped and cared for the diamond in the rough. Look at these words that Bartimaeus says. He specifically says, Jesus, son of David. Son of David was a term used in the Old Testament and in prophecies to talk about the Christ, the hero who was destined to come. Nobody else in the whole Gospel of Mark ever identifies Jesus as the son of David. Nobody. Only one other person in the whole Gospel of Mark identifies Jesus as the Christ. And that was Peter, Jesus' right-hand man. There was one point where Jesus said, who do you think I am? And Peter said, you are the Christ. Nobody besides these two guys in all of the Gospel of Mark ever identify Jesus as the Christ. But Bartimaeus does. Some blind guy on the side of the road, never seen one of Jesus' miracles, never probably heard Jesus speak, probably heard a few other people share about him. When the crowd comes to him and he says, what is going on? The crowd says, it's Jesus of Nazareth. Another guy's response to that was, Nazareth? What good can come out of Nazareth? That was their title. It's just Jesus from Nazareth. And Bartimaeus says, Jesus, son of David, the Christ, I know who you are. Have mercy on me. He saw it before many others. Toby Mac has a song, I see you in everything. I see you in everything all day. And in the music video, I love it because Toby Mac's walking down the street and he has these rose-colored glasses. And he sees people that are unnamed and unknown, that are socially inappropriate, that are overlooked by the rest of the world. And he sees them with his eyes, and they look that way. They look like a drunk in the streets, or just a lady who has just been done with the world. But when he puts on these rose-colored glasses, he sees who they become when they encounter Jesus. I see you, Jesus, in everything. Can you see the diamonds in the rough around us? Check this out. When Jesus called for Bart, he didn't do it himself. He told the same crowd that was just rebuking him, hey, you guys go call him. And their censor turned into a call. Instead of censoring him, they went and called him and said, hey, be encouraged. Come on. He's calling you. Their whole attitude changed. And I wonder how many eyes were open that day. Bart's eyes were open. But you also start seeing that the crowd's eyes are open. Because instead of seeing this big world-changing event, all of a sudden they start seeing this unnamed and unnoticed person that's been there the whole time. And not only were their eyes open to Bart, but as I read it, it almost seems like their eyes are open to Jesus. Because beforehand, they did not call him for sure the Christ or the Son of David. But the very next time, after they hear Bart, the very next time, after they hear Bart say, Son of David, and they see Jesus' response, and they are assured, and it's confirmed, this guy really is the Son of David. He responded to the name, and he did the miracle, and he saved the day, and the very next time you hear words coming from the lips of the crowd, this is what they are saying. Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessing is the coming kingdom of our father David. Hosanna in the highest. And before, when they were unsure, they wouldn't even say it's Jesus of Nazareth. I'm not going to identify him as the Christ yet. I'm not going to say whether he's a prophet or the Messiah. I'm just, we're just going to wait and see what happens. Beforehand, after Bartimaeus says it, now all of a sudden they're proclaiming in the streets, this guy is the Christ. Here he comes, the Son of David, the kingdom of our father David is coming in. And their eyes were open because of this diamond in the rough. Who will you unleash because you stop and care for somebody who is an interruption? Who will you unleash to do kingdom building work? If you had one way to change our country, what would it be? When we talk about great school teachers, we often think of those who pay attention to individual students. Like when you look at colleges to see which college you want to go to, one of the things you look is, what's the student-teacher ratio? Am I going to be just a number, or are teachers really going to invest in me personally? What you look for in a great teacher. We had a kindergarten teacher named Mrs. Duncan. She had both of our boys, and we were just amazed and thankful for the individual attention she gave both of them. They came through in different years, and we just noticed each year she specifically gave them projects and homework and help for their exact area, an exact level to challenge them wherever they were at so that they would personally grow. And she's become one of my hero teachers and examples as I look at her. As I was thinking of the importance of paying attention to individuals, I recalled a story she shared on Facebook and asked her permission to share it with you today. A few weeks ago, she wrote, "I don't know how many times I've cried this school year. Alone at my desk in the dark, broken down, sobbed, then wiped my eyes and went back to this bubbly, positive person who makes small children believe learning letters is the most fun thing possible that could ever happen. This is hard. The hardest thing I've ever done, to teach in a way that isn't me, to follow the ever-changing restrictions." I think we could probably all relate to that. "To meet my goals and to try to learn new technology in my free time. That doesn't exist. So this Friday, I'm dragging. It's been a week. I have nothing left. I treat myself to a Starbucks on the way home. The woman in front of me buys my iced coffee. I sob. She has no idea what it meant to me. It wasn't coffee I needed to pick me up. It was that simple act of kindness. Be kind, always. You never know the weight another carries and the impact that you could make." As Jesus was on his journey to change the world in Jerusalem, he said, "Salt is good, but if the salt has lost its saltiness, how will you make it salty again? Have salt in yourselves and be at peace with one another." He spoke those words when there were a bunch of things happening where people were focusing on themselves instead of the people around them. The disciples were arguing about who was the greatest. Then some other people came in and they were casting out demons, but they weren't part of the disciples, and the disciples were like, "Hey, you want us to rebuke them?" Jesus was like, no, I don't want that. That was the last thing I want you to do. And then some children come, and the disciples are like, "Quit bringing your children to bother Jesus." And then there's this blind guy along the side of the road, and everybody's like, "Shh, be quiet. Don't interrupt us. There's something bigger going on. We're changing the world." And in the middle of all those stories, Jesus said, "Salt is good. But if it loses its saltiness, how will it become salty again? You are the salt. Live at peace with one another." Disciples, stop trying to become my right-hand man and go look at how you can help heal the right hand or heal the eyes of the people around us. One thing I notice about salt is that there's this very individual thing about it. Like, you can see the individual pieces. But when they all come together, they have an amazing effect on the food. What would be the change in our world if Christians in America allowed themselves to be interrupted, had their eyes open to the people who are unnamed and unnoticed, who are socially inappropriate, ranting and raving, who are diamonds in the rough? What would that effect have just in our community this week? You could do one thing to change the world. Would would you allow yourself to be interrupted like Jesus and to focus on those individuals around us? You guys would like to come do lead us in the last song. Jesus, I come here each week because I need a glimpse of you. And because I need this family. Because I am encouraged when we get together. As a church, we come to you and ask you to open our eyes. I know that there's many here and listening online who feel like this blind man, and they're at their wits' end, just crying out, Jesus, help us. Jesus, you are the author and creator of life, and you give us life to the fullest. May you come and meet us as individuals, as you did when you were walking to the cross. May you come and do that with us now and meet us. What do you want? Rabbi, I want to see. And he was healed. And Jesus, we pray as a church that you would open up our eyes to see those around us, and not just to notice them, but to even open our eyes to be able to see some of those underlying roots and fears and worries and stresses, and be able to introduce them to the one who is the way maker, who is the Savior. May you empower us with your Spirit to shine your light, to be your salt in Chambersburg this week. Peace.